Okay, let's talk about cutting out your pieces now that you've decided what swimsuit fabric you're going to use and what pattern you're going to use. If you have a very large piece of swimsuit fabric like this, the most important thing is that you want the entire piece of fabric to be on your work table. You don't want it to be hanging off the side of the table like that, because that's going to stretch it and pull it out of shape. So pile the whole thing up on your work surface and just work with the end that you need. When you are cutting out a piece on the fold or mirror images, you need to make sure that you're folding the right sides together, just like they will be when you're going to be sewing it. That way you don't have to unpin your piece and then try to put it right sides together. Just go ahead from the bat and line it up right sides together when you're cutting it out. Also, you just want to fold the fabric and let it lay where it is. Don't try to align the raw edges. That's probably going to pull it out of shape and not be on grain. So just fold it over and let it lay where it wants to. It knows what to do. So you put your piece on there, and instead of using pins, I suggest using weights. These are some pattern weights that I have, but you can use anything. You can use a remote control, you can use your phone, anything that's going to hold it in place. So go ahead and just lay your pattern weights down and use your rotary cutter to cut around the pieces. It's much easier than using traditional scissors and pins. If you have to use pins because you don't have any weights or you don't have a rotary cutter, then go ahead and make sure you're using like a quilting, really thin, really sharp pin. If you're using something dull or something short, it's going to be a lot harder to pin your pieces. When I am having a rectangle piece like this, I don't even use the pattern piece. I think it's much easier just to measure the piece with my ruler, jot down what the dimensions are, and then cut it out with my rotary cutter. It's much, much easier than trying to go around the paper. So that's a tip for that. Also, if you're cutting a piece, where did my pieces go, Lucy? If you're cutting out a piece like this, like a strap or a crotch, and your pattern weight won't fit on it because it's too wide, what I'll typically do is just cut one side. Can you see that, Lulu?
Yes.
So I just put it on, you know, on the fabric, and I will cut this side first, and then I'll just move my pattern weights over, and I'll cut the other side. The rotary cutter and the pattern weights are going to make it so much easier to cut out your pieces. Also, what I like to do when it's time for seaming is use these clover pins. You can buy them at any fabric store. They're probably going to be in the quilting section because they're meant for quilters, but they're really, really great for swimsuits. Once I cut out my piece, and instead of pinning it in place, I just use these clips. There's two reasons that I like these clips. One is because they're not going to puncture your fabric, and two, you're probably not going to serge over them. I've serged over so many pins, especially when making swimsuits, because I go really fast and I don't take the pin out in time. But these are really easy to see and you're not going to sew over them. So I really, really like these clover clips for holding your pieces together before you seam them. That's really going to help you. So I think that's all about cutting out. If you guys have any other questions about that, let me know. I hope it helps.